Keep calling her.
Okay, I'll call this finance meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I think he's in a hurry. Yeah. Okay, motion to adopt the agenda. Is there a motion? Moved by Sager, supported by Carabelli. Please vote. Motion passes 12-0. Motion to approve the minutes dated February 14th, 2018. Moved by Sager, moved by Duge, supported by Drillette. Please vote. Motion passes 10-0. Public participation. Does anyone wish to be heard? Does anyone wish to be heard? Seeing none, we'll end public participation. Government Operations Committee recommendations, Board of Procedures. We actually haven't, it's actually not a recommendation because we didn't get through them. We're going to try to do that today. So after the last meeting, I realized there was a feeling that I was wanting to go through and express my opinions on them and not give anybody else a chance. And I don't want that to be out there. So I'm going to give the rationale very briefly, but I'm going to open it up for anybody and everybody who has questions or wants to make a case or state an opinion. I think what we're going to do is we're going to try to do that by hand. If it gets too busy, we may switch over to the computer on it. So the first one, number one, oh, by the way, we're just going to do a hand vote. A simple majority gets it into the board rules, but it takes 2/3 to approve them at the full board. Yes, Chair Smith.
I was under the understanding today that we were going to talk about these and the rationale behind it, and then give people a little time to kind of sit on them and talk about them and not really vote on them to get in until like the next set of meetings. Because I think we're going to be probably canceling full board tomorrow.
We are canceling full board.
So I would rather, personally, I would rather have people have a time after your explanation and, a little debate today to maybe sit on these for at least a couple weeks.
Okay, why don't we do this then?
If that's okay.
There are some of them that everybody might just agree to.
Yeah, that's
and
fine.
just to go ahead and set those
Get rid of
aside,
those.
so at the next meeting. But let's go ahead and have the discussion today, so, and there can be more discussion in the future. I just want to, okay.
Thanks.
So the first one is just adding the definition resolution because that wasn't in there. Does anybody have any questions on that? Okay,
What was it before?
it just was missing.
What, the word resolution?
In definitions, the word resolution was missing. Okay, so on this particular one, since there's no discussion, all those in favor of going ahead and moving forward with this one, please raise your hand. Okay, so that one we'll dispense with. That'll go in. Okay, the number two, all number two is housekeeping, because the charter says that we have to vote on these at the first meeting. We do have to vote them on at the first meeting. It's just reminding commissioners that we can turn around and amend them after that. And the reason for that is the first meeting that we do them, we can have several new commissioners and they're having to vote on board rules that they didn't even get a chance to look at. So that's all that number two is, just reminding that they can be amended at any time. Does anybody have any questions or comments on that? Okay, rather than make you raise your hands, does anybody not want to have any issue with that one today? Okay, then all those in favor of making that change, please raise your hand. Oh, okay. Okay, so we'll go ahead and add rule number two. Rule number three, the change from clerk or board staff member to individual. The rationale for this one was the chair usually opens it up to somebody at the podium, a department head or somebody of that nature. It's very rare that the clerk or a board staff member is the one who gives the presentation. So we just changed board staff member or clerk to individual to give the chair the discretion as to who they call to make the presentation. Why are you, Chair, I'm sorry, Commissioner Carabelli. Yeah. Yeah, you can call it.
Introduction of an agenda item is the chairperson of that committee. So why would it be?
Because it said introduction and present. The chair will introduce, but the way that it read, it would be a staff member or the chair to present, and this just gives them the authority to introduce and then present somebody else to give the.
Madam Chair, the presentation is by that board chair of that committee. They're making a presentation to the rest of the board members. They've scheduled it, they have put them on their agenda, and it's a presentation of that chairperson to make that presentation of whoever they bring up here, be it staff, be it private, be it whoever. So it's really on it's whoever's chairing that meeting. It's their meeting.
Okay.
And they're making that recommendation and introducing whatever they got for us. So it's actually by that chair of the committee. You understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes, so I know that we're not going to vote on this one today because there's at least one person that's not comfortable, and and I think there are others. Now, Commissioner Juji, I don't understand. You're not comfortable with anything.
No,
you guys can't see
I'm
the look on his face.
confused. Individual, it doesn't fit. We can make all kinds of comments as far
Let's
as
see how
clerk
it
or board
reads.
staff member, but it's realistically, it is the chair of said committee that does bring it in. Individual is vague, somebody walks off the street
let's see.
during public participation, that's an individual. And they don't even have to live in Macomb County, and they're going to present an agenda item? An agenda item doesn't
Okay.
get presented out of the clear blue.
Okay,
If the
we
chair,
have
the chair of the committee is actually the one bringing it forward.
Okay, so we have a suggestion, and it's just under 5A2 for 2 to just say introduce and present each agenda item, period. Does everybody like that? Right, exactly. We were taking out clerk or board, so by saying introduce and present each agenda item, we're accomplishing that goal.
Madam Chair, if you say committee chair or his or her designee, you covered it all.
Well, it's A2, so under the headline of A, it says chairperson or vice chairperson in the absence of the chairperson shall. So that's how it reads, shall introduce and present each agenda item. How does that, you see what I'm saying? We can take time on this one and work on it further.
Fine.
Chair Smith.
I just want to make sure, because I just got to it too, that everybody's looking back farther in to read the whole rule. The whole rules are farther back in there, so you can read them in perspective with the whole change farther back. And it'll be on page 15, Rule 5, A2, and then you get a little better perspective
Right,
of the
that's what I'm
actual
looking at.
change. And it does say the chairperson or vice chairperson in the absence of the chairperson shall, and then that says introduce and present each agenda item, or introduce it and then designate the individual who will present. And I think individual might be, because it's not just going to be a clerk or a board staff, it might be some individual from the audience that might present something. So I
Thank
don't have
you.
a problem with individual.
Thank you. Thank you for that clarification, because I think everybody might be looking at the list of edits, and I'm reading off the list, but I'm looking at the actual rule that's changing, which is what it actually says. And so thank you for clarifying that. So under duties of officers, the way it actually would read is A, the chairperson or vice chair in the absence of the chairperson shall. And number 2 is introduce and present each agenda item, or introduce it and then designate the individual who will present the agenda item, is how it read.
Well, you know, it might not be a bad thing, just introduce it, period. You don't need to give more description of how they gotta do it. They're gonna
Okay,
do
so introduce each agenda item, period. Everybody like that? Okay, so the change would be, number 2 would simply say introduced each agenda item. Rule 5A2. Everybody in favor of that? Oh, sorry.
May I make a suggestion? Oh, sorry, thank you, Madam Chair. That on anything that we might change, maybe those are the things we sit on.
Okay.
And look at just a little bit more. And anything that we all agree on that we don't change, maybe those would be the ones we would vote on. That would be my suggestion.
Okay, so,
But leave it as the newest version
okay,
of
so
what we would.
so what I'm seeking with the hands is, do
change
people
it.
agree to change it? We're not gonna vote on, that's gonna come back up for discussion again. Does everybody understand that?
Yep, okay, thanks.
Okay, so everybody agreeing to change it to introduce each agenda item, please raise your hand. Okay, so that's the change that'll be incorporated. You'll get a new copy. We're not voting on actually putting that in today. So the next one, number 4, is Rule 5B. We're moving the abstention part of this policy to Rule 15. That's all we're doing. We're going to have a further discussion on what that paragraph says when we get to Rule 15. But all we're doing right now is moving it to that section because it's already sort of there. Is anybody uncomfortable with that? Okay.
That's what they're looking at.
Okay. Rule 5B says replace entire paragraph. Oh, am I on the wrong one? I'm sorry, I skipped one on you guys. Sorry about that. I'm sorry. 5B, it is replaced because it conflicts with our section of committees being committees of the whole. So, so what this says is at any time the chairperson may submit appointment of a new member to or removal of a member from a committee. The problem is in our board rules as it is now, we're all committees of the whole. When we get to that section, there's an addition that we can change that at any time, but if we are in our board rules committees of the whole, then you don't want the chair removing 1 or 2 of us. You see what I'm saying? That's the rationale for it. If you guys want to think about that when knowing the rationale, that's fine with me. Does anybody have any questions on that? You want to think about it? Okay. 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 So the next one is the abstention one. So that's Rule 6. We're taking the entire section that you see lines through, and we're simply moving it to Rule 15. That's all we're doing is moving it from one section of the bylaws to another. Chair Smith.
Guessing you just, and I haven't looked at that part, but it fits better, you believe, at least in
Yeah,
Rule 60 now.
this one actually wasn't, I think the board staff looked at that and felt that it belonged in that section, that it was in the wrong place. That wasn't,
So we're not removing, we're just moving
we're
to
just
a
moving
more,
it at this point.
more logical section of the rules.
Right.
Okay.
Does anybody have any issue with that, or does anybody want to wait on that one?
I'd say we vote.
Okay, all right, so, sure.
Keep in mind, and Bob, you're gonna have to talk to Scott and how we go to this, because we have created special circumstances for the Department of Roads, where I don't have to be present. So when I was chair of infrastructure, I did not have to be present here physically in the building. I could reply via email or phone call that, yes, we approve an expedited process for approval. Still came to full board, still came to me. When we put that in place, we don't hold up projects. So I'm just concerned that this part may kind of say that, hey, you know what, you can't really do that anymore unless we refer back to except for excluded in, because I can video call. I can call on the phone, I can do that, and I can still make that good.
That's, yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Okay, yeah,
So we
absolutely.
may
The-
have to talk to the attorneys about putting just something that does not change whatever item the other one.
Okay, the part that you're referring to, the part in black, is in our board rules now, so we may need to look at changing that. So if you could take a note that, all the changes here is just moving the part that's in red to another section, but if, we'll have Scott look at that.
It's a contracting policy that talks about that, the procedure.
Okay. Okay, Crystal has the background on that, so we'll, Chair Smith. Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Duge?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think we really have to take a look at this video conferencing and conference calls. AAA, you can call in and so on and so forth and stay on the phone if you can't make the meeting. There are a number of other boards that I've been on that approve of video, of conferencing both on the phone, and I imagine it'll transform to video soon enough. Knocking this out and not having it apply is kind of being stuck in the 20th century.
No, all we're agreeing to right now is to move the red part.
I
but
understand that, but I'm talking about, literally about the black part that's not getting
I
moved.
think that what we've agreed to is we're gonna have Scott look at it and decide maybe that needs a change, so that
Thank
is
you.
gonna be under consideration.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, just to move it, please raise your hands. Okay, so we'll move that section, and then I'm just gonna circle it because it's not done, and Crystal has the background on that, so they'll work on that. And I also think Commissioner Carabelli and maybe even Commissioner Duge, if you could make sure you either get your concerns to Crystal or you talk to Scott or something so that you might be part of what the wording should be, or remind them of the roads or that sort of thing before the next meeting. Okay. Okay, Rule 6, add attendance sentence. What did we do? Oh, the minutes shall be a reflection of the attendance. Now, there's a debate over whether or not attendance should be in the agenda, but whether it's in the agenda or it's not in the agenda, the minutes do reflect the attendance. We'll make that decision at a later part, but the minutes reflect the agenda because of the new board sync system. So even, you know, we've been doing this roll call at the end of meetings. Well, we know who's present at the end of the meetings because of the last vote and everything. So that was simply the rationale for there is the minutes are what determine who was present and who wasn't for each vote. So that's there is another part on actual roll call that will be up later on. Do you guys want to think about that one, or you want to think about that one? Okay. Prior, we used to do the roll call vote, and we don't do that anymore. So, Rule 8A, I got to keep myself in place here too. Rule 6, Rule 7, Rule 8. Yeah. Oh, that was 6. Rule 7, number 7, which is Rule 8A. There were two reasons for this change. The first is the procedural motions are never reduced to writing. We've never reduced motions to table, point of orders or things of that nature. And the second part of that was when we make an amendment to a motion at the table, we don't call a recess to rewrite the whole thing and pass it out. We actually used to do that when I came on, but we haven't done that in several years. However, the and or gives the chair notice that if the motion changes, if there's something different, that they need to restate the motion what it is prior to the vote. So that's what the rationale for that one was. And that one's a little complicated. If you guys would like to think about it, that's fine.
Just give you two real quick points.
Okay.
When read aloud or restated by the chairperson prior to debate, blah, 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 at the end of the day, or his designee, because if you're having somebody take minutes and writing this down, you want to make sure that wording is correct. And I don't know if the chairperson's going to have time with the meeting, if he's got a a paragraph thing, he's going to be able to remember every single word, so it would have to be written down and reread.
I have no problem with that.
That's it. The reason why that's in there is this. There's convoluted, or there's actual motions that come before us that were required written, and be it for a millage, be it for several different things. And at the last minute, to have somebody come in and want to change the motion without being written down, for somebody to take a look at it, figure out how you want to build that mousetrap. I understand what you're trying to do, but if somebody's wanting to change a millage and you're talking about percentage and everything else, I just don't want to hear it. I want to see it in writing. So how you want to build that mousetrap, it doesn't make a difference, but I think it's important on some of these things, we have to have that. So
Oh,
that,
if it happens at the table, that,
you understand, usually if I have something I'll prepare beforehand, I'll pass it out to all the commissioners that, hey, this is in the package, but I'm going to be suggesting this, gives you the opportunity during the meeting to take a look at it and see what somebody's talking about.
yeah, and if somebody else makes a motion that nobody was prepared for and they need time to digest it, I don't have any problem adding something about any commissioner can request it be put in writing, that we do take a recess. We haven't done one in like 5 years, but we've done them before, so we want to give ourselves that opportunity.
How do you want to do it? I would consider that.
Okay, Commissioner Duge.
Well, it's, if somebody makes a friendly amendment or things get convoluted and so on and so forth, some of the legal beagles on the staff might be able to follow it, but other people cannot. Restating the motion is tandem to before the vote. I think it's a good idea to restate the motion if there are changes even on the fly. Because we've changed motions here on the fly in this room.
Right,
So-
we're not getting rid of restate the motion before the vote.
But to restate what we're voting on before we vote on it.
Isn't that what we put in here? That's what that's what the change is, right?
Oh, we added that. We're taking this out and adding it as last sentence, so maybe he thinks it's not being replaced there.
Oh, okay. Commissioner Duge? We removed 1, 2, and 3, but we added the part at the top that says each motion should be read aloud or restated by the chairperson before being debated, and we added and or prior to the vote, so that if a change occurred, we want it restated. And what we're talking about is, from Commissioner Carabelli, is giving a avenue for somebody to say, I appreciate him restating it, but I would like to see it in writing before we vote on it. Chair Smith?
That being said, I think that originally the motion was okay, and I think maybe we, instead of saying, I say we keep 1, 2, and 3. A substantive motion shall be reduced to writing, I would say, unless waived by the chairperson, which the chairperson would be able to waive, the writing part of it if no one requested it. And the second one could be written, really, the procedural motion shall be reduced, I would say, unless waived by the chairperson. And maybe we add, any commissioners may request that any motion be, committed to writing. And then the last number 3 stays the same, because, it's just the same as what you added about putting the motion in, reading the motion before we vote on it. So I think every commissioner should have a right to ask for that to be put in writing if they don't understand it. If nobody asks for it to be, then the chairperson should have the right to waive that requirement, but the requirement is always to read the motion. So that would be my suggestion on this.
Okay, with 1 and 3, number 2, can you think of a procedural motion that gets reduced in writing? I can't think of one. It's a motion to table,
I'm saying, you still give the chairperson the right to waive it, so if something odd came up, we could get it to writing, but 99.9% of the time, the chairperson would just waive the requirement to reduce us to writing. No one asked for it, we could just move forward with it.
Okay.
So that would be my,
And then number 3, it says read aloud by the clerk.
Oh, I'm
It's
sorry,
usually,
okay.
should it say the chair or chair designee?
And that's fine, because the chair designee is probably going to be the clerk who has it typed into their computer anyway, just because of because of what
Okay, so
Commissioner
we'll,
Carabelli.
okay, so we can do that, and maybe add a fourth one, if Commissioner Carabelli is talking about allowing somebody to
Yeah,
say,
anybody
wait a
from the chair,
minute.
anybody from the board may request, and then it,
Listen, let's be really clear. This is only gonna happen when you have a written, millage, you have anything that comes up that has to be spelled out in how you're doing X, Y, and Z in that motion.
Okay.
Receive and file, it's not a yes, it's not a no. This is, we're giving $2 million of brownfield redevelopment to this company and this community, X, Y, and Z, but then no, somebody says, no, I want to get 1.6, I'm gonna get 4 million over here. No, whoa, time out, what are you talking about?
Okay, so we're gonna work
So-
on that one, I think we kinda know, does anybody else have any? I think Commissioner Gillette.
This is a little bit technical, but number 2 says a procedural motion shall be reduced to writing if requested by the chair. Not that he can waive it, but it's automatically not required to be in writing if it's a procedural motion, unless for some reason the chair
Right.
requests it. So that's a minor clarification.
No, I was actually, I'm sorry.
I think you're on the same page.
Yeah, I was going to change it, but nonetheless, it stays like that. I think that it makes sense with what you were saying.
Yeah.
I think we're on the same general page on this.
Okay, so we have some rewriting to do on that one, and then that one will come back. Okay? So number 8 is Rule 8D. This one is the one that there was a little bit of discussion on it. The addition gives the chair the authority to allow some discussion if no one wants to make the motion until some things are clarified. Right now, I believe it just says if there's no motion, there's no discussion. Sometimes the chair of a committee will seek a motion and everybody stares at him. And then they say, oh, would you like some clarification? And sometimes there's questions before a motion. It gives the chair the discretion to do that.
That is wrong.
Okay.
It gives politicking part of this. If no one's gonna support something, it fails. Plain and simple. If you don't have it prepared and you're not ready to present that, you don't give them enough opportunity to change it around so you can get another bite at the apple in a different way. That's politics. That's why that's in there. If nothing happens, no action is taken, no one makes a motion, that fails for lack of support. There's no two ways around it. Now you're gonna say, you can have a couple more bites at the apple and twist it, see if you can get something else. That's in there for a reason.
Yeah, I don't think that's the intent. I think our practice has been, I know a number of times I've sought a motion and there's been silence. And as soon as a clarification or some discussion has been made, people are like, oh, I misunderstood that. Some motions are time sensitive. That's why we decided to give the chair discretion, but clearly people want to think about this one. So,
There's already,
There is a rule that says that you can make a motion for purposes of discussion, I thought.
so you don't have to make a decision if that happened to be your case. But if there's a motion on the floor, you're asking for a motion.
if you have an agenda item that's for purposes of discussion, what you're saying ahead of time, though, is that you're not going to vote on that.
No, I thought that there was a rule that said that it was, a proper motion would be to make a motion to have discussion on the item. But we can check that.
Yeah, I think there is. And then you can, if you don't agree with it, you can remove your motion or support. There used to be anyway.
We can check that.
It's not in here right now. So, okay, we're gonna take another look at that one. This is D, 8D. 7, 8D. Okay, just keep in mind, this is simply, unless the agenda item provides that it's an agenda item which no action is to be taken. That may be what you're thinking about, Commissioner Toko. In that case, the understanding is there's not going to be any action. So it says a motion must be before the board in order to discuss an agenda item that has been presented by the chairperson for consideration. If we want to keep it that way, I think that occasionally we don't follow that. I think occasionally we have discussion. So we're gonna think about that one. I don't know if there's any change or just an up or down vote in the future. The only addition is the chairperson may waive this requirement or if he or she feels the board needs more clarification before making a motion. That's all that the change is. But we're not gonna vote on that. I think people wanna take a closer look at that one. And then number 9 is Rule 8G. This just adds the word table because table is in H below. We make motions to table all the time, and table just simply was not in there. There was a motion to postpone. What did we? Is that the thing that went away?
Oh,
Red, it looks like it's new.
yeah, that's not supposed to be red. It was,
No, okay. So we had a little problem with the computer where it kept taking that away inadvertently. So in order to get her, it was already in there. In order to get her to keep it there, she had to put it in as if it were new. But it was already in there. Yes, and there's one more that isn't in here, and that is where it says the following motions will be in order is being changed to the following motions may be made. Because Scott explained when he said will be in order, he didn't mean that was the order they had to be taken. What he meant was they're in order, they're okay to be made. But none of us understood that. So Scott came up with it shouldn't say will be in order, it should say may be made so that was clarified. Commissioner Duche.
Are we still on postpone or table?
Well, we passed that.
Yeah, well, yeah, the other one wasn't in here. That was why I brought it up. It's just above it. But yes, we're still on postpone or table.
Well, okay, but question I have, to postpone or table action to another specified meeting or until occurrence of a condition or event. To table something, you table something to a date certain or indefinite. Postpone is you can do it to a date certain or indefinitely also, but tabling kills all discussion. Why are we getting rid of the explanation of tabling or postponing, or however you want to put it?
Because this is just saying the following motions may be made. We're just saying what motions may be made. So I noticed that table was missing. Actually, I don't even.
add table in, this is to postpone, it's not to table, so you can't have those in the same sentence. You know what I mean? If you table it, you have to bring it off the table to discuss again. If you postpone it, you have to give a date.
Okay, Crystal said that second part didn't go with the word table, that's why that was added. Or that's why it was deleted. We can add a,
Add another one that actually keeps the definition in for postpone and just says, or table would be number 5, and then just move everything down. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, we could do that.
Go out of here if it's not.
Or put in table number 11.
If you're gonna do it right.
I've heard that song.
Where's the
one that you
didn't have it here, but it's in there. I want to make sure I get that. Okay, so do you mind, how about that? We just add another number and put that in there.
A table and the definition of tabling?
We can put the definitions in, but the definitions belong in the definitions. They don't belong in the section that says the following motion shall be made. I think that's where,
Fine.
For some reason,
okay.
I hope that sooner or later everybody understands what the tabling is.
Is that in definitions? I didn't even look. It might be in definitions.
That's working.
But I'd like to table that.
All right, that's going to come back. Okay. Okay, so number 10, and I'm missing that one, so find
that
that
is
for me.
number 12 is the one that
Okay, we're not there yet. Okay. Okay, number 10, Rule 11A. We always start these board rules and government ops, but we never finish the discussion in government ops. We usually it doesn't go to finance, it usually I think goes to full board, but there's usually discussion that takes place after government ops. And what we didn't want to do was get through the whole thing in full board and then have to send it back to government ops. So the only intent of that change was to say the board may amend the rules at any time by a 2/3 vote of commissioners serving, instead of requiring the recommendation from government ops. But it still originates in government ops.
As long as we still have government ops.
It will always start in government ops. Do you guys want to think about that? Or there's so much silence.
I think we agree.
Everybody agrees?
Silence means agreement.
Being that we're in the finance meeting, I guess we should probably agree to it.
Okay.
We could be doing this in JPS.
I did talk to the government ops chair. I didn't just hijack this situation. Okay. Number 11, Rule 13. Okay, everybody in favor of putting that in, please raise your hands. The one we just all agreed on, we just needed to. Okay, Rule 13. Number 11. Rule 13C, change authority on committee meetings. It changes the authority on committee meeting decisions from the chair to the chair and vice chair of the committee and to the chair and vice chair of the board. This arose out of concerns about meetings being too long due to cancellation of other meetings.
Scott said we didn't have a policy for it, and we should. A policy for amending the schedule.
Everybody, do we have to raise our hand if we have to go to the bathroom too?
No, I mean, if you want to speak all right, I just want to clarify, this was not my change. I don't even agree with it. I just put it in there because it was a recommendation from somebody else. So, Crystal indicated that Scott said there should be something in there with respect to the change of those meetings. We have something that gives the board chair the authority to change meetings. We could, rather than doing that, give the authority to the committee chair to change or cancel meetings. That's been the practice.
The practice is always, anybody could try as a chair to change anything they want, but actually, it usually went to the board chair, because they're managing all the committees instead of one. So conflicts with staff and other events that are going on, the board chair, hold them responsible, him or her, and at the end of the day, the ultimate decision should be by them, because they're trying to manage an entire schedule of everybody. So if you want to move your meeting to the same day, or you want to do something else, it may be good for that individual, but not the rest of the board. So I don't know. I like it, the board chair had the authority to do that.
Well, Scott said there's something in here that lets the board chair have authority over the committee.
Right. There's two things. There's this, Scott said there's nothing in here that gives the board chair committee authority over committee chairs' decisions at their committee meetings. He says there's nothing in here with respect to that. My position on this was, we have, and I do think that they should work with the board chair and the board staff, but we have commissioners who step up and they act as committee chairs. And they're put in that position by the board, and they go above and beyond the work of other commissioners, and to strip them of authority that they apparently have had or exercised has created some tension. So,
Well, I don't know what you're referring to, so in the compromise, why don't you turn around and say, the committee chair with concurrence of the board chair? Because the board chair has to manage everything. And if you take your finance committee and say, no, I'm gonna put them all at 6 a.m. in the morning, well, the rules say you can do that, right?
I think the rules didn't clarify that.
You
The rules
understand what I'm
didn't say
saying?
anything, yeah.
So if you say what you want there with the committee chair with concurrence of the board chair, then if you have a lone wolf, it can be reeled in or she.
I think that's important. I think, like Jim said, the board chair is coordinating everything from a top-down perspective. I mean, there may be some other committee meetings that have to be heard before the particular chair wants to have their committee, or, you know, for whatever reason. So
You never want a meeting.
I should, you could compromise and say the committee chair with board chairman concurrent. I don't need more.
That's kind of the way it's been done. We just have
We
been
just
working
didn't-
informally.
Right, we needed a policy for it.
So I want to, you can let Andre talk.
Okay, Commissioner Duche.
Thank you, but that's not what this says, first of all. And second of all, okay, concurrence of the board chair. I can understand that to a certain extent. But, okay, if being a chair of a committee or so on and so forth, you can't even decide on something like that if you want to add, subtract, move, or otherwise. If you're going to do that, it would make sense to talk to the board chair. But let the chair of the committee run his or her committee the way they see fit. If you don't want to do that, then make the board chair the chair of every committee and everything is under the sun. End of story.
Okay, well, why don't we try this?
All right, I'm gonna-
Hold on just a second. Why don't we try this? It sounds like nobody wants committee chair, committee vice chair, board board vice chair. It sounds like some people just want committee chair, some people want committee chair and board chair. I mean, to me, the compromise that might get this through is the committee chair and board chair, and take the vice chairs out of it. Would that move forward? Chair Smith?
That's what I was gonna say. I think there's too many people in this scenario, but I think that there does need to be, you know, there needs to be a little collaboration going on between this, because I think there are times, and I've seen them before, where, you know, a chair has thought a meeting was gonna be meaningless and hold no value, and an hour and 45 minutes later, we were still in that meeting. So, I mean, there is room for different points of view on here, and I think, you know, you do elect the board chair, whoever it is, to, you know, to run the organization, so to speak. You have other people in there that can do what they want, but sometimes there needs to be a little bit of collaboration on canceling meetings and adding meetings and stuff, and I think your version of the, oh, I'm sorry, no one can everyone hear me? Sorry.
Yes.
So, at the end, I think the version that you mentioned is the one I would be for. Skip the approved by the board, skip the vice chairs of the committees and the vice chairs of the board. It should be, at the end of the day, the chairman of that committee, or is, you know, somehow or another, maybe the chairman's out of town and the vice chair wants to move a meeting, right? So there has to be a little leeway for that, and there has to be
Hold on a
leeway-
second. Commissioner Leonetti is after Chair Smith.
Right. So, okay. So the only thing I would say is it should be two people. It should be two people, the chair of the committee, the chair of the board, or in their absence, and I have the floor, by the way, I have the floor just for 1 second. If you're out of town and your vice chair wants to change a meeting, then it would be, or their designee, which would be the vice chair. If I'm out of town and someone wants to move a meeting, they would have to go to the vice chair. I think that it needs to be just one and one, whoever it is. You know what I'm trying to say. So I think that I agree with you. We just need to tweak it a little bit.
All right, I'm going to let you speak to it again, Commissioner Duche, and then I'm going to wrap this one up. I really don't care which way this one comes down. I just want every commissioner to be aware this is one that it's not going to pass unanimously no matter what when we get to it. Commissioner Duche.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And no, with concurrence of board chair might work, but concurrence of board chair and let it go at that. If the chair isn't around, then the vice chair is acting as the board chair.
Well, that's fine.
End of story. If the chair of the committee isn't around, the vice chair is the chair of that committee. So,
I
come
think-
on, we can get really carried away with all this stuff. I think
All right, that
it
works.
was too much to begin with.
That works.
With concurrence of board chair and let it go. Thank you.
Actually, I think we agreed with each other 5 minutes ago, so what I'd not want to do is debate on items where everybody agrees with each other. Okay. All right, so we're going to rewrite that one and bring it back. That's number 11. Rule 13. Okay. Okay. Rule number 15B. it's number 12, rule number 15B, and I have to go to it because she doesn't have it in the notes.
Can it be sent to us instead of you reading it to us?
Oh, it's actually
It's in the markup. She just didn't put it in that list of notes at the beginning. And by the way, this one's an easy one. So, the Supreme Court made a decision, this is the one, 15B. Okay. It says commissioners may engage in informal canvassing and communications with one another about their respective opinions and inclinations. This changes because we had something that prevented polling, and I knew that there was a Supreme Court decision that said, wait a minute, that's a violation of individual commissioners' First Amendment rights. So what we did was we took the wording that the Supreme Court said, and we're going by that and putting that in here because they actually struck down what we had in our Open Meetings Act, and what we had in here was in here because of what was in the Open Meetings Act. That happened some time ago. We just never changed it. So this change was written by Scott's office after looking up what the Supreme Court decision was. So it allows what the Supreme Court says we're allowed to do. We are allowed to call other commissioners and ask their opinion. We just can't I can't call Bob, who then calls Leon, who then calls Leon, you know. So, does everybody understand that?
Does anybody not
Everybody's
understand it?
really engaging. Everybody's engaging so well today. I just want you to know,
I think if they agree with you,
especially
they
this
just
side
tune
of the
out.
table.
Right. If we agree, they tune out. I think that's what happens. If you see tune out, then just keep moving. All right? There you go.
All right, all in favor of that change, please raise your hands.
There you go. See? I'm not-
Okay. That makes it in. Number 13. Number 13 is about announcing the motions. It's already in our rules. We're not making any changes. We're just reminding chairs that it is in the rules that we're supposed to announce the motions and announce the no votes. But we're not making any changes on that. I'm just pointing it out to you guys. So there's no vote to be taken there.
I think we're maybe polling.
So number 14.
Hope that's not outside these laws.
Okay, this is the fun one. So this is the, to add back the abstention language. And option A is, I'm going to let Commissioner Carabelli speak to it because that was his consideration. Option B was my consideration, and I'm not sure where option C came from. Was that added?
Bob.
Okay, and
I
option
believe
C,
it was,
option B
yeah.
was
Oh,
Bob.
wait, one
Is-
was you, one's Carabelli, and one's Bob.
I talked to, on option A, I talked to both Scott and I talked to John Shapka. And you are elected to deliberate on everything that comes in front of you. If you want to abstain, it has to be a vote of the board for you to abstain, to relieve you of voting on an issue. So if you have a conflict and you bring it up and you disclose it. So if Commissioner Leonetti says, you know what, I'm on that bill run and it's a check for me coming and I'd like to disclose that to the board, and the board says, well, you have no control of how much they're paying you, it's our decision to say, no, you can vote on it, you've disclosed it, we know you're not doing anything illegal. If you say, hey, that company I have 50% ownership in that you're approving this contract, I'm gonna make a vote for Commissioner Leonetti not to vote on this, and the board would vote it as a whole to have him either vote on it or not vote on it. As long as you're disclosing it to the board. Because by law, we are required to vote on everything that comes in front of you unless you have a conflict of interest. And it's not up to me to make that decision. It's up to my peers who govern here. So that's why, that's how it's in municipalities, Shelby Township, Macomb Township, and I believe even Clinton Township. Mike walked out. That's the way everybody else does it. I don't know why we're not following the same protocol.
Okay, and before I call on you, Commissioner Gillette, I just want to get through B and C, and then I'll give you a call if you don't mind. I'll call on you if you don't mind. I'll give you a call. Okay, option B was mine, and mine, the change, his was that the board would vote on whether or not to allow the abstention. Mine was simply the statement, a board member shall not abstain if he or she has no conflict of interest. The reason I put that is if I feel I have a conflict of interest and I'm not comfortable voting, and the board votes that I can't abstain, and then I say, I've got a conflict of interest, I'm not casting that vote, and I abstain, now we have a legal situation. And so I didn't know what happens if the person then refuses. I wasn't sure. Saying, look, you cannot abstain unless you have a conflict of interest was mine. But now I want Chair Smith to speak to his, which was just forget about what Commissioner Carabelli put in and forget about what Commissioner Kleinfeld put in. Let's just have that part about.
Okay, so I haven't talked to Scott about this, and this is something to me that is way more of a legal matter than an opinion matter. So I think that we should run these three by Scott and ask him which one that we should have in here to legally fulfill our duties of this. I mean, I might think C is a better option, but I mean, when it comes right down to it, that's not the law. So, right, I think that we should bring these three to Scott and see, and then let him give us an opinion. I know Jim said he talked to Scott and John Shapka about it, and I don't have any reason to doubt him. That being said, Crystal, have we run these three options through Scott or Corporation Counsel together to see if any of them are, first of all, prohibited?
Scott said for many bodies, approval by the remaining members of the body is required. Remember, there is a general duty to vote. A failure to vote can be a failure to perform the duty of the office.
That's all he said? But we didn't run these three options by him?
No, that was his, like,
Point of
paperwork was
information.
doing.
That is our Michigan compiled law, Act 156 of 1851, 46-3, County Commissioner, Board of Commissioners. It's your duty responsibility to vote on every item.
I'm sorry, did you say 1856, Clerk Springer?
1856 number, not the year. I'm just trying to look this up. You're really responsible to vote on everything.
So,
Right.
It's not for you to make the decision, it's
let's
the
go.
board.
Yeah,
We'll ask him for a
Kim-
recommendation.
Jim's analysis, as said by the legal, that he talked to Scott and to Shepka, I think he's right on, from what I understand. It really comes down to this. You, as an individual commissioner, have an absolute obligation to disclose any conflict you have. That's your obligation as an individual commissioner. And then it's up to the board to determine if that conflict is such that you should be abstained. You know what I mean? That's the way it normally works.
I wouldn't say normally because I've never experienced that. So I wouldn't say normally, but Scott saw one of the three versions. He did not see all three. And
Okay.
all Chair Smith is asking is let him take a look at all three and give an opinion.
Yeah.
Because by putting in here, you shall not abstain, to me, you're telling a commissioner they can't do that. To take it the step further, what you're doing is you're telling a commissioner that the rest of the board is going to vote to tell that commissioner that they have to vote. We're supposed to know the rules, and it just seems odd to me.
Well,
It may be where we go, but I'd like to have him look at all three instead of just look at one version.
Well, let's say there was a settlement here for a case, and I said, look, I had a pecuniary interest in this settlement, right? I would have to disclose that. There's no doubt you folks are all going to vote to say you're out of it, Leonetti. You can't vote on that. There's no question about that. The problem comes if I don't disclose that and I go ahead and vote on it. Now, if I say, hey, look, I got this settlement here. I'm going to get a third out of this, okay? And I tell you guys that, and you all say, oh, go ahead, vote on it, Leonetti. I'm covered legally. I mean, that's it. You know, it's only if I don't disclose it that's the problem.
Let's have Scott look at it.
Okay. You don't got that in there?
Had it in there. Pull it out every meeting.
Musha.
Number 15, Rule 15E. Here's what we did. We had this whole system, I'm just going to explain it clearly, where at a meeting, if this commissioner makes a motion and this one supports it, then we go through alphabetically. And then the next motion, then it drops down alphabetically and we go through. That was before board sync. And the reason for that was to prohibit at the time it was the clerk that did all of the roll calls. It was to prohibit one person from manipulating who gets called next to manipulate the votes. Now that we have board seek, 99% of our votes are going to be cast that way. In the event that board sync isn't working and our board staff needs us to do a roll call vote, what we did was we said, okay, the motion maker goes first and the second goes second. As per Commissioner Carabelli was right on that. That absolutely should be in there. And then the chair or the chair's designee, and we can put that in there, can just go around the table and call. Because we're not going to remember 6 months from now if there's another failure who did it last time alphabetically. You understand what I'm saying? That rotation. So we're trying to get rid of all of that, and just on those rare occasions that board sync fails, that we could do that. Does anybody have any question on that? Okay, everybody in favor of, and it may not say chair or chair designee. If it doesn't, we can put that in there instead of just chair. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, we got a majority to put that in. Okay. The next one is, okay, this one is done. Okay, so the next one, number 16, is Rule 16A3. Attendance roll call. This was due to the change in Rule 6 about that the minutes reflect the attendance. However, there maybe some people felt it's important to have the attendance roll call in there. I don't personally have a problem with the attendance roll call being in there. It wasn't something that I put in. I don't have a feeling either way.
Again, I don't care which way you go, but remember, go back to the pay ordinance. At the start of the meeting, you have to have a roll call, which will be the adoption of the agenda, which will be your roll call. And then you have to have a roll call at the end. Because if you're not present for both of those, you're considered absent for that meeting, and that counts as an absence. Now, they changed the ordinance, pay ordinance, that's one thing. That was stopping commissioners from showing up from the meeting and leaving. So talk to your attorney and make sure you look at the pay ordinance, and then it all works together. How you build it, as long as the attorney says good, I'm good. But remember, that's in there. You're not there at the beginning of the meeting and the end.
Right, right, and I agree with you. Doing the roll call at the end of a meeting where we all have to press a button to do a motion to adjourn, and that's recorded, seemed a little bit ridiculous to me. But the bylaws say, the bylaws say attendance roll call separate from those other motions.
Again, talk to the attorney, because that goes back to your pay ordinance.
Right.
How many meetings you can miss, or however that all works. So again, just make sure that those.
Well, we
all
have
work.
to do that one this year too, don't we? So we can tie them all up neatly. Okay, so. Okay.
About absences.
Okay. All right, so nobody has a strong feeling as long as the two mesh with each other. Okay, so we'll have Scott take a look at it. She doesn't see it written that way in there, so I don't know that we're gonna have a problem taking that out as long as the minutes reflect everybody's attendance at the beginning. However, at the end, when we do a motion to adjourn, then we probably have to press the computer button as opposed to just motion to adjourn, everybody say aye. There may have to be that actual recording. So I think that's where we're headed with that, and we'll bring that, but I think that's where we're gonna go with that. Okay, so number 17 is Rule 16A. It's 4 or 3, depending on what we do with the one above it. So I wanted to clarify something because I think people thought that this section that I was looking to add would actually go in the on the agenda, and that wouldn't happen. It used to be that when commissioners came on, they were told that an invocation each commissioner would do an invocation, and that an invocation could be a prayer, a poem, a recitation, moment of reflection. That always existed, but somewhere over time, commissioners weren't being told that, and they didn't know that. The other section, the prayer of reflection should not exploit or advance any one faith or disparage any other faith. That wasn't part of what I was trying to address. I was just trying to address that commissioners are notified what they can and can't do, and that they have a right to opt out if they want to opt out. So I'm assuming that that's in there because Patty found the original wording, maybe? I'm not sure. That was the original wording that used to go out to commissioners when they came on, and so that's why that's in there.
Well, I have no problem with all we have to accept that period. If you take that word out, or if you take out and, should, all the way down to belief, the period at the end of that sentence, and you put commissioners may choose to opt out.
Okay, remove from and to belief. I'm actually, I agree with you. I thought that by having that in there, that could create problems.
You didn't include sexual orientation, you didn't include,
Oh.
you could go on and on, that's why, take it all out. No, I'm being serious, take it out, because if you include something and not all of it, you got a problem. Don't say any of that.
No, my concern was it said that you can't advance one faith. Some people do a Christian one. Remember, we had a commissioner that brought in a Buddhist or something. And what I'm saying is if it's in there, every time we do it, there could be a legal issue. So if everybody is in favor of keeping it but removing that one sentence? No. Prayer or reflection should not exploit or advance any one faith or disparage any other faith or belief. Oh, and should be brief but meaningful.
Start off.
Well, yeah.
Comes out, right?
Yep, all the way down to
All right, I
belief.
got it.
And the
Now,
following sentence.
let's go to the next one.
I make a motion that we get rid of
What's the next one,
everything in
Veronica?
red.
Okay, wait a,
Just leave invocation in there and call
All
it a
right.
day.
I'm with you.
Or usually.
Did you say?
invocations on the agenda. This is in the policy to let commissioners know what's expected to the, everybody that's in favor of putting it in with Commissioner Carabelli's change, unless, does anybody want to wait on this and not vote on it tonight?
Let me have the change again, please.
Okay, here's the, with the change, it'll say, invocation may be provided by the commissioner or invited guest. Invocation is an opportunity to offer a prayer, poem, recitation, moment of reflection, period, etc. Commissioners may choose to opt out of invocation at the beginning of each year. If you opt out, somebody else will be put in your place. It's not just going to cancel the invocation.
Prayer reflection should not be, okay, that should all be crossed out.
That's right.
Okay, or disparity of any form, okay, got
Then
it.
you're legally in trouble, yeah.
Got it, thank you.
Okay, everybody in favor of doing that, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, okay, there's a majority.
How about whoever wants to get rid of
Yeah.
everything in red and just leave invocation there?
Have you gone to the actual 16A4? Well, is he looking at this one?
We already voted.
Okay. Okay. All right, that has been decided. I can mark that one off. Okay, number 18, Rule 6A. We don't know if it's going to be 7 or 6, but we'll just go 16A, 7, and 12. We're not going to decide that. We might handily decide it doesn't go in here. I might be the only one that has that thought process.
Take a vote.
So the question is, do you guys want to think about this one, or do you want to vote on it tonight? It's a simple one. Taking the hearing of the public from 5 minutes to 3 minutes. We have 2 hearings of the public. That would be 6 minutes instead of 10 minutes for each person. Chair Smith.
Although I echo the concerns of you and having, a big meeting where people are talking and talking and talking, I don't think that it happens, and I've been here, 7 years now, and I have not seen it happen to the extent where I was sitting there thinking, my God, we got to limit this to 3 minutes, number one. Number two, we're kind of paid to sit here and listen to people. We are the representatives of the citizens, and this is the open meeting where they get to come and talk to us and kind of vent their frustrations or appreciations, whatever it might be. I don't think that we're, I don't think an extra couple minutes per person is the problem. I think it just looks bad at the end of the day that we would try to limit them from telling us what they want to tell us. And that's, listen, I sit here with you on many occasions with a few people going, oh my God, what's going on, right? We all do that. But, at the same time, this is kind of comes with the job of commissioner, I think.
Okay. Hold on a second, Commissioner Gillette.
I just concur with the board chair. I think if it's not broke, we don't need to fix it. There hasn't been a real crisis. If we want to limit some commissioners to 3 minutes, I might support that.
Oh, we know who'd be at the top of the list. Commissioner Romano.
We got in there at the discretion of the chairperson. So let the chairperson decide. We have 30 people up there that want to speak all on the same subject and all repetitious. Let your chair decide how much time they're going to have, 3 or 5 minutes. I have no problem with that.
Okay, so the question is, do you guys want to vote on that tonight? Because I don't think it's going to pass.
5 minutes. 5 minutes.
Well,
5
okay.
minutes. 6 minutes for praise.
Okay, so
5
the
minutes.
vote, so the request for change, well, the way to do it is, are we voting to change it? That's what we're doing with all of them. Are we voting to change it? It already says 5 minutes. I don't think I'm going to get 7 hands on that. So, do you guys want to go ahead and vote? Okay, so the vote to change it, the vote to take it down to 3 minutes. All in favor? Thank you. We've set that one aside. It'll stay 5 minutes. Yeah. Yes, it does. The only change was the 3 and 5. Okay, so that one is, it won't come back in any way, shape, or form. Okay.
I do agree with the discretion of the chair at the end. There was a reason.
That's the next one. Okay. So number 19 is the same thing. And what we did, number 19 is the same thing. And what we did was we took the same wording and we just changed the order of it so that, let's see. So that the chair has discretion on not only how long the person can speak after the allotted time, but they also have discretion on what they speak about at the first one, because what we're doing in practice is we're allowing people to come up and make announcements or talk about a specific thing, even though it's not on the agenda. So we're actually practicing what we're changing this to. And the change itself is keeping the exact same wording, just changing where in the sentence it says at discretion of the chair to give them discretion on both issues.
Yeah, I'm good with
Does everybody understand that? Okay. Everybody, anybody want to wait? All right, everybody in favor of this change, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that one passes, so we can put that aside. Okay, rule number 20. Number 20, rule 16A, 13 or 12, right. Okay, all this is to change the name of new business to reports by commissioners. The only reason for that is we don't use new business for new business. We use it for reports by commissioners. We announce things we've gone to. We talk to commissioners about things that we would like to see. We have a lot of discussion that has absolutely nothing to do with new and upcoming business. This just makes it very general. Most councils that I know of will say council comments or reports by council members. It just gives us that latitude that we're already doing. Does anybody have any concerns on that? Okay, all in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, there are 7. Y'all had concerns on that?
I don't know.
Go to the next, we got a
Yeah,
majority.
yeah, don't there's no need to hear my dissent.
Okay. 17, 18. Okay. Number 21. The board shall have the following standing committees. Okay. The only reason this is being added, because it says all of which shall be committees of the whole. There was a feeling, it wasn't my change, but there was a feeling that people wouldn't know that the board in the future could say, wait a minute, we don't have to be committees of the whole, because it's in here. We have the opportunity to amend it, but as now it will remain that we are committees of the whole. Does anybody have any questions on that? Does anybody have any issues with it, voting on it today? Okay, all in favor? 1, 2, 3. Okay, we have 7. Number 21. We're getting there, guys. Okay, number 22, Rule 17C. And this one didn't say the other thing, did? Okay, commission. Okay, the chairperson shall notify commissioners if a subcommittee has been formed. I want to go to it real quick because. 17C. It's a little different under work groups, right? Okay, so the board chair and committee chairs create work groups or subcommittees on a regular basis. There have been problems in the past where the rest of the board may not necessarily have known that there were working work groups or subgroups on certain committees until the items came to the floor. We should as...
Who's asking for this change?
Well, that was mine, but it coincided with the one on subcommittees because
Let me ask you this question, because if you read through the whole thing, all subcommittees have to have minutes, and they all have to be approved by the full board. So any commissioner that doesn't know of a subcommittee, and you're voting on the minutes and you're not reading them, you're adding language in there that's already kind of covered, and if the commissioner doesn't read his language of the minutes, then shame on that commissioner.
First of all, this one's on the work groups, not on the subcommittees. We've never had minutes of work groups. We've never even been told of work groups. I can even tell you specifically, Commissioner Toko and I were put on the work group with request to the logo. We were having extensive meetings. The board didn't even know we were meeting about that because it was put together by the chair. It's my opinion the board should always have knowledge when something of that nature is occurring. There were no minutes. No, it was not Chair Smith.
No, it was Commissioner Flynn. And at the end of the day, he was at a board meeting, and you guys volunteered to work on that, and I sat in that meeting and seen him tell you guys, and you guys worked on it, and you guys came back, and I remember...
That's not what happened at all.
I remember Bosford, she's the whole one that worked on that.
She did, but
Okay, listen, you can add it in there, you can add a lot of different language, but again, if it ain't broke, why are we changing it? And if there's minutes of a subcommittee meeting that are required, then why would you have to change that language? And notify, you're gonna...
that's actually later in the agenda. That's under subcommittees. This was under work groups. But I don't think anybody wants to vote on it today, given the...
It seems to me like I like the change, it's a little bit more specific.
You guys don't want to vote on that today, correct? Oh, wait. Am I backwards on these?
You talking about 22, Rule 17C?
I'm backwards. This one is subcommittees. I apologize. I'm backwards on the two. So this one is a 17C. So this is the one that's significant change because of what it said about board approval.
This just says,
Item D. If you go to the section you want to change, where you want to add it, in there, each committee and subcommittee shall keep minutes of the committee and committee's actions and shall report respectively such action to the full board or to the standing committee. So those minutes are going to be adopted, but it says you have to keep them. So I mean, I don't understand what you're looking for. Addition on top of that.
Did we mess those two up?
well,
Because
it's added to both spots. Did you not want it?
no, what we were doing was that we we had never had that the board voted to create subcommittees, and that's what was in here, and that's what I thought we were trying to fix. We need to take a look at it. We may have, when we were correcting them, mixed work groups with subcommittees and not gotten it right. Okay, so we're gonna, okay, and then number 23, because of board sync, it's not necessarily required that committee chairs come in physically 5 days before. A lot of the review takes place online and through discussion. And that was the only reason for the change to Rule 17F was board sync kind of changed how we need to do that. And so we still have to get with board staff at least 6 days. It's just, we have to review agenda items. We don't necessarily have to come in for a meeting. Rule 17F, yes. Does everybody understand that? All right, everybody in favor of that change, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, 1, 2. We don't have enough people to, okay, so we don't have enough for that change to go in. Do you guys want to bring it back, or do you just want to leave it? Leave it? Okay. 1, 2, 3.
I agree with Commissioner Burlett.
All right, we're missing 5 people. We're almost through this. Okay. Okay. All right, that's a good idea. We're now that we're missing 5 people, we're not going to vote on any of the others. We're just going to talk about it, and we'll bring them back.
Well, why are we going to talk if we deliberate again on this? Will be,
Well, because
okay, go
we
ahead.
didn't do
I'm
that.
sorry. I don't want to belabor it any longer. Please go.
Okay. We're on 24. Yeah. The only change here was changing vice chair to chair some committee meetings to chair committee meetings when needed. That was my preference on wording. That's all it was. And other people may disagree or agree on that. If anybody wants to discuss it right now, that's fine. If not, we'll just move it forward. Okay. 25. Okay. 25, Rule 18C1. What did I write here? Again, it's board sync. We no longer request a record roll call vote for things. They're automatic in board sync, and that was the reason for the change, because it says if requested by any commissioner a record roll call vote, we do that all the time now. So there was no reason for that to be in there anymore. So 26, excuse me, was Rule 20A. Okay, this was the same as the subcommittee, so we're definitely going to take a look at that and bring it back. 27, it does not apply. 27 is out and it won't come back.
27, Rule 21D is out.
It will not come back, because that went along with 3
to 5.
Yeah, so that one's out, it won't come back. Okay, so 28, Rule 21D1. This was the where the people that come into the hearing of the public have to announce their address. There are safety issues with regard to that. There are people that may have somebody that has a restraining order or something. There may be people that don't want somebody to know where they live because there's a safety issue. People do not have to live within this county to come to our hearing of the public. So I just changed it to whatever name your county as opposed to stating your address. We don't really have a good reason for that I know of. Commissioner Gillette.
Just wonder if it'd be okay to just change it municipality of residence, because I might want to follow up with somebody if they're from my district or something like that.
I don't have a problem with that.
I'd like the Corporation Council. Yeah. Opinion on this. I can't ask.
Okay.
I would, but I agree with it, but I'd like to make sure we're doing it.
That's
Okay.
how we used to get a hold of them, is with their address, we would send stuff back out.
Okay, we're gonna follow up with them, and I don't think that's done elsewhere, so I don't think that's gonna be a problem. We're gonna follow up, and that's gonna come. Fine. Okay. That was number 28, 29. 29 we have in here that at the hearing of the public, the board chair can decide if a response is appropriate and may, at his or her discretion, respond on behalf of the board or allow another commissioner to respond. Our problem is that we tell people at the hearing of the public that we don't have that authority. We tell them, I'm sorry, we cannot respond to you. The board chair tells them that, committee chairs tell them that. So if we want to stay true to what we're actually telling people, we should only allow the chairperson to respond for clarification purposes only, but not to open it up for other commissioners or to get into a debate with the person at the hearing of the public. Everybody understands that? Okay, and that, we'll bring that one back for a vote. And then 23, the last, no, not last, 23, number 30, the last one. Okay, so the beginning of this says, all notices or correspondence required by the charter to be given by the county executive to the board. And then it goes on to say, shall be given to the board chair, and then and then the chairperson shall refer the notices or correspondence at their discretion. If it is something from the county executive to the entire board, then the chair should not have the discretion not to pass it on to the entire board, especially when this says correspondence required by the charter. If the charter requires that it goes to the board, then the entire board should get a copy of it. That was what the rationale for that change was. Okay, and that's all of them. So where's my agenda?
Thank you for doing that work, Commissioner Kleinfeld.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, so we'll move on to new business. Is there any new business?
I have some new business.
Chair Smith, who does?
Okay. Or Commissioner reporting. Two things, some new opportunities for commissioners to participate in March for Meals and March Reading Month. You guys, I'm telling you, I'm encouraging you. I mean, obviously it's election year, but anytime, get out in your community and do some of these things. It's really well received and it's kind of rewarding, obviously, besides the fact. I went to the Macomb Business Awards yesterday, and I am flatly surprised that I was the only one there from the commission. They announced everybody who was there. It was 500 plus businessmen from all over the county receiving different awards or up for different awards. I'm telling you, don't miss it again. You guys would be very impressed with this ceremony. You could get to sit with businesses in your district and talk with them. It was a very nice event. It's always been. I think this is the 6th year going. I strongly recommend you going to this next year for those of you who are still here next year. Any of you noting the Macomb Daily articles talking about road repairs and some special surplusage fund and that they had to fix potholes and do all this other stuff? Crystal and Patty have been looking into it, trying to kind of figure out where these funds are, since we don't really get the details of these budget items. We did get some response from Smeagol, who had to respond to us on vacation because we don't have access to IFAS to figure this stuff out. We had to get on. Steve came and talked to her, gave us a response from vacation to do that. We also received finally, I don't say finally because people were out of town, but a copy of the contracts that we requested from the executive's office. So we'll explain more about that as the staff has a little more opportunity to look through these. Anything else, Crystal, that you can think of?
We had asked Rhodes to come.
Oh, yes, we did. I'll say we had some correspondence from the executive's office. We'd asked Rhodes to come and kind of explain what's going on with the pothole thing, and obviously not to beat them up. Really, hopefully to kind of sell their case, because they've hired other companies, they've hired cities, they've hired everybody that they can. They're working overtime. I've run into them at night. But we'd asked the executive to ask the Rhodes to come over here and just kind of give us an explanation, because people are calling us. They denied that. So I think they're afraid that we're gonna just, they're gonna get beat up by us and by everybody here. I mean, we can only tell them that's not the case, but, we do get asked, and then we send them to the road department. So, I mean, that would have just been something we could have helped kind of deflect from them by having the proper information on all that they're doing, which I can't say. I mean, they're doing a lot. The roads are as bad as they've ever been, but I think it's been the worst season of this type of freeze and thaw that they've had in a long time. So, that being said, I think that's it for today.
Mr. Chair,
Oh.
is our office setting up their reading months?
Yes. Yeah, we
Okay.
have. Yeah, we have the reading month. I think, does it go out to everybody? Is it sitting?
You have to tell them about it.
Oh,
Well,
great.
it's, some of them some
Yeah.
of us get contacted individually from elementaries, others go through
Right.
the commission.
I'm
So
sorry. Yeah, go ahead. No, you're right. I thought that all of these were on your desk. That's why I was just reading from. So, yeah, get a hold of Mike O. He will set it up for you for any of the schools that they have available.
Which one?
Mike O. That Mike O.
Okay,
Just put a gun on my.
all right, so there's commissioners
And-
waiting to speak, so I want to,
There you go.
Commissioner Romano.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This Friday, Sterling Heights has their cultural commission. That's almost like a food tasting event, and they come from all different municipalities, guys. And honestly, there's probably 300-400 people there. As I said, it's a tasting event. They will allow you to hand out the food, put your name tags on. It's a good promo for you if you'd like to attend. It's from 6 to 10. Unfortunately, I'm going to be at the fireman's presentation, so I won't be there, but it would sure be nice to have a commissioner from Sterling Heights show up. That's all I have. Thank you,
You
Madam Chair.
didn't say where it is.
I'm sorry?
You didn't say where it is.
Oh, at the Sterling Heights Senior Center. And they have dances and shows and all from all different nations that show up to do this. It's an annual event, and it turns out real nice. It's all free.
Thank you. East Point had their State of the City and surprisingly had a very good turnout from Macomb County. We had our Planning Commission person there, and Pam Lavers was there. Just wanted to point that out. I do have a question, Bob, if we could find out, it said in the newspaper that the county executive is paying cities to do repairs on the potholes. I didn't know that. My son's looking to find out if the city of East Point knew that. Could we find out what the process is for cities to set that up? That if they've got people available to fill the potholes, how they get reimbursed? Is there a process that's been sent to them or something of that nature?
Point of information, the city should probably contact the county themselves directly if they want to work something out there.
Realistically, probably talk to Brian.
Maybe, but I mean,
I'll look into it, but I would also suggest
Okay.
they talk to Brian.
okay, thank you. Commissioner Dujay.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I'd like to go on record as commending the city of Warren, the mayor, and the road department in the city of Warren for all the work they're doing on DeQuinder and on Mound and on the mile roads with the help and the behest of the road commission. And they've gotten no credit at all from anybody, and it's about time they did. They were out there yet last night busting their keisters, filling potholes, and the city of Warren has gone over and above to help the roads and the potholes. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, and I think the reason I would like to apply some pressure to cities that have the ability, if they're not doing that in my area, because we've got some pretty bad situations. Who had their hand up? Commissioner Leonetti.
Just a report. I want to thank JP's department. There was a business in Clinton Township, and they were planning on relocating. I know some of the people that own the business. They were going to relocate out to Novi, or they were looking at places in Oakland County. I said, look, before you do that, why don't you get a hold of JP? His department got involved, and these folks are not only going to stay here in Macomb County, but now Gibraltar is going to be filled. They're a very good company, so that should be coming down the pike. And JP was part of it too. So just wanted to let everybody know that. So that we kept the business here in Macomb. Very good business too. Yep, exactly.
Any other commissioners? Just a reminder, tomorrow's full board has been canceled, so we don't have that. And with that, we have a second hearing of the public. Does anyone wish to be heard? Anyone wish to be heard? Seeing none? So moved. support by Commissioner Kraft. Please vote on your iPad. Eleven to 0, we're adjourned.